Imagine for a second that you are a professional engineer or a geoscientist.
Okay.
You've got the degree on the wall, you have the technical skills, you know the math, you understand the complex rock formations. You've put in the years.
Mm-hmm. You'd think your job is all about the calculations, the designs.
Exactly, making sure things don't fall down. But what if I told you that the actual foundation of your entire career isn't math and it isn't science?
It sounds like a trick question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You'd assume the foundation is, physics or chemistry.
Right. But it turns out, according to the framework we act under, the foundation is something called a social contract.
Which sounds like something you'd discuss in a political science lecture, not on a construction site.
For sure. But you are absolutely right. The core of this profession isn't just competence, it is a legal agreement with society.
And that's our topic today.
It is. We are diving deep into why the law isn't just a set of rules to keep you out of jail. It is the very bedrock of public trust. We are unpacking Blueprint 3.1.5 from the Canadian NPPE exam syllabus, professional accountability and legality.
This is such a critical topic, and I want to be clear. We aren't just reading the act today.
No.
We're going to move beyond the dry definition of following the rules and really explore the nuance between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law.
Because understanding that difference,
That's what separates a technician from a true professional.
I'm ready to get into the weeds on that. But first, I have to give a very specific call to action for everyone listening.
Ah, yes.
If you are currently preparing for the NPPE exam, or even if you just want to stay sharp on professional practice so you don't accidentally lose your license, please hit that like and subscribe button right now.
Please do.
It really helps us keep creating these deep dives, and make sure you don't miss out on future study aids that we have in the pipeline.
It's a small action for you, but it's huge for the show. It helps us keep this content coming.
Absolutely. Okay, let's unpack this. We started with this phrase, the social contract. To me, that sounds incredibly abstract.
It does.
If I'm an engineer designing a bridge or a geoscientist mapping a reservoir, how does a social contract actually affect my day-to-day reality?
It affects everything, even if it's, invisible. Think about it this way. In Canada, the provincial and territorial governments grant professionals, engineers, and geoscientists an exclusive right to practice.
Okay.
They also give them reserved titles. You can't just call yourself an engineer or a geoscientist without that license. It's illegal.
Right, so it's basically a VIP club. You get the ring, you get the title, you get the high salary. Sounds like a pretty good deal for the professional.
See, that's the trap. It looks like a VIP club,
Yeah.
but it's actually a deputization. There's a heavy price of admission.
Okay, what's the price?
In exchange for that exclusivity and that professional autonomy, professionals accept strict accountability to the public. The laws governing the profession, the various provincial and territorial acts, they don't exist to protect the engineer's job security. They don't exist to make the geoscientist's life convenient.
So they aren't a union. I think that's a common misconception.
Precisely. They are not a union. A union exists to protect the worker from the employer or the market.
Right?
The professional association exists primarily and almost exclusively to protect the public interest from incompetent or unethical practitioners.
That is a key distinction that I think gets missed. You're saying the law is there for the public, and sometimes that puts the law against the practitioner's personal interest.
Exactly. If a professional's convenience or their desire to make a quick buck clashes with public safety, the law says public safety wins every single time. That is the social contract.
You get the status, but you carry the shield for the public.
That's a great way to put it.
So, legality is non-negotiable. It doesn't matter if you are a consultant, an employee at a huge firm, or a business owner.
It creates a personal liability. The obligation follows the license holder personally. You cannot shed your legal obligations just because you clocked in at a specific company.
This leads us to a really interesting scenario mentioned in the source material. I call this the unlicensed genius problem.
Ah, yes. The classic dilemma. We see this all the time in tech-heavy industries.
Let's paint the picture. You have an individual who has the education. Maybe they have a PhD in engineering. They have decades of technical know-how. They are brilliant, maybe smarter than the licensed people in the room, but for whatever reason, they don't have a license.
Right, maybe they let it lapse or just never applied.
Can they practice independently?
The short answer is no.
Even if they know the math better than I do? Even if their design is technically perfect?
Even then. And this trips people up because they conflate competence with authorization.
Competence versus authorization. Break that down for me, because logically, if you can do the work, you should be able to do the work, right?
That's the logical trap. Competence means you have the ability, the knowledge and skill to do the work.
Okay.
Authorization means you have the legal right to accept the risk associated with that work.
So the law sees it as illegal for them to take responsibility.
Yes, for that unlicensed individual to independently practice or take responsibility for professional work.
So even if they get the calculation 100% right, the act of doing it independently is breaking the law.
Yes, because the law assumes that only those who are licensed, regulated, and subject to discipline should be responsible for decisions that affect the public.
Ah, I see. If the unlicensed genius messes up, the association can't touch them.
Exactly. They aren't a member. If you aren't in the system can't hold you accountable. The public has no recourse against your license because you don't have one.
So society just says, we don't trust you with the final decision, no matter how smart you are.
That's it. It's about the accountability chain. If the bridge fails, there needs to be a specific neck on the line.
And I assume this concept of authorization extends geography as well.
It does.
Yeah.
This touches on mobility. Just because you are licensed in Ontario doesn't automatically mean you can practice in British Columbia.
That feels a bit antiquated, though, doesn't it? Physics is the same in Toronto as it is in Vancouver.
Physics is the same, but the laws are different. Environmental regulations might be different. The seismic codes are certainly different.
Vancouver has earthquakes, Toronto generally doesn't. Good point.
So you have to follow specific mobility or temporary licensing provisions. You can't just assume your license is a global passport.
Okay, so that's the big picture stuff. Who can practice, where they can practice. Now I want to transition to what I call the regulatory housekeeping.
The stuff everyone rolls their eyes at.
Well, yeah, it's the checklist items. Maintaining active registration, paying your fees, completing your continuing professional development, or CPD.
Using your seal correctly, all that admin.
It feels like bureaucracy, but the source material is very clear. This is not optional.
No, these are regulatory obligations.
Okay, so here is the question that I think catches people off guard. Let's say I'm a licensed engineer. I'm great at my job. My buildings stand up. I never hurt anyone. But I just ignore my CPD. I don't log my hours. Or I forget to pay my fees. Can I really get in trouble if no one actually gets hurt?
Yes, you absolutely can. And this is the aha moment for a lot of candidates.
Really?
Non-compliance itself is misconduct.
So I can lose my license without a bridge falling down?
You can lose your license for failing to reply to an email if that email is a formal request from your regulator.
That seems harsh.
It seems harsh, but go back to the social contract. You don't need to damage a building or the environment to breach the contract.
You just have to fail to meet your duties.
That's it. If you don't do your CPD, you aren't demonstrating maintained competence. If you don't pay your fees, you aren't supporting the self-regulatory system that protects the public.
So the system is fragile. It relies on everyone playing by the rules.
Correct. The law doesn't require proof of physical damage to establish illegality. Non-compliance is enough. And you have to be proactive.
Meaning I can't just wait for my boss or HR to tell me the rules.
Ignorance of the law is no defense. You'll hear that over and over. You cannot rely on your employer or your colleagues to keep you out of trouble.
But in a big company, you kind of get lulled into that, oh, HR handles the renewals.
And that is a dangerous mindset. If HR forgets to pay your dues, you are the one practicing without a license.
Oh, wow.
If legal approves a contract that violates the Engineering Act, you are the one guilty of misconduct. You must proactively stay informed.
That is a heavy burden, but I guess that's the price of the professional title.
It is. You are a professional first and an employee second.
Okay, now I want to move to what I think is the most abstract, but maybe the most critical part of this entire discussion. The difference between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law.
This is a deep dive concept that is essential for the NPPE and honestly for your career survival.
Okay, lay it out for us. Start with literal compliance. What does that look like?
Literal compliance is doing the bare minimum. It's looking at the text of the regulation and doing exactly what it says. No more, no less.
Just trying to avoid a fine.
Exactly. It's a defensive posture. It's the person who says, show me exactly where it says I can't do this.
Right. The rules lawyer approach and the spirit of the law.
The spirit of the law asks why the law exists. It means understanding the intent behind the rule and acting in a way that advances that purpose.
And the purpose is always public safety.
Public safety and welfare, yes.
Can you give us a concrete example? Because advancing the purpose sounds nice on a plaque.
Sure. Let's look at what I call the loophole trap. Imagine a professional. uses very specific, clever contractual language to shift blame for a design risk onto someone else.
Like a contractor or even the client?
Exactly. Someone who isn't actually qualified to handle that risk.
So they find a way to write the contract so that if things go wrong, it's technically not their fault. They've legally inoculated themselves.
That's it. They might be technically compliant with the rules of contract law. They might have found a loophole.
Mm-hmm.
But does that protect the public?
No, the risk is still there. It's just managed by someone who doesn't know what they're doing.
Precisely. It endangers the public. The professional has secured their own safety at the expense of public safety.
So even though it's legal on paper, it violates the spirit of the law.
Yes. And here is the kicker. Regulators can still consider that professional misconduct.
Really? Even if they didn't break a specific written rule in the act?
Yes. Because you failed to act with the integrity and judgment expected of a professional. You prioritize protecting yourself over protecting the public.
That is fascinating. It implies that being a professional requires you to interpret the vibe of the law, not just the text.
Vibe is a casual way to put it, but yes, laws cannot predict every single technical scenario, especially with technology moving so fast.
Right, like AI and new materials.
The law might not have a paragraph for that yet. So professionals are expected to interpret the requirements in good faith. If a decision is technically legal, but you know in your gut it endangers the public,
The spirit of the law dictates you must not do it.
you must not do it.
That requires a lot of backbone. Which brings us to the real world. Because then you go to work on Monday morning and you have a boss.
The employer pressure, the classic conflict.
Right. Budget constraints, impossible deadlines, management encouraging you to cut some regulatory corners.
Just sign off on it, we'll fix the paperwork later.
Don't worry about that environmental test, it's too expensive. We've all heard it.
This is where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
And the source material is unequivocal here. Professional obligations override employer instructions.
Say that again for the people in the back, because that is a scary thing to say to the person who signs your paycheck.
Professional obligations override employer instructions. Full stop.
So my boss told me to do it is not a valid excuse.
Never. Compliance with a boss's request is not a shield from liability. If your boss tells you to ignore a safety standard to save money, and you do it, you are the one who is professionally accountable.
The regulator doesn't care about your boss's profit margin.
No, they care that you used your seal to validate something unsafe.
It's a high-stakes game of chicken.
It is. But the law says you have to stand your ground for the law. The legally correct response is to refuse to participate in unlawful conduct.
Which sounds incredibly difficult in practice.
It is difficult. But consider the alternative. The text advises that you might have to escalate the concern within the company. And in extreme cases,
You have to walk.
you have to withdraw from the work.
That's a career-altering moment. You might lose your job.
You might. But if you stay and comply, you lose your license, your career, and potentially your freedom. You serve the public first, your employer second.
Let's talk about a slightly softer version of this. Delegation. I'm a busy engineer. I can't do every calculation myself. Can I delegate?
Yes, absolutely. Delegation is necessary and permitted. You can delegate tasks to qualified individual.
The system would grind to a halt otherwise.
It would, but, and this is the massive but,
Yeah.
you can never delegate accountability.
So I can tell the junior to run the calculations, but I can't blame them if the calculations are wrong.
Exactly. The licensed professional retains final responsibility. You must provide adequate supervision. You need to check the work.
So if the subordinate messes up,
The regulator doesn't go after the subordinate, they come after you.
I didn't check their work closely enough, isn't a defense.
No, that's an admission of negligence. You sealed the work. You own the work. It doesn't matter who typed the numbers in.
That really reinforces the idea that the license is personal. You carry that weight.
You do. And letting an unlicensed person work without supervision, or worse, letting them represent themselves as a professional to a client,
Like letting a junior call themselves an engineer in a meeting.
violates both the letter and the spirit of the law.
So we've talked about the responsibilities. Let's talk about the consequences. What happens when legality is breached? The list of doom, as I call it.
It is a sobering list. If you fail to practice within the boundaries of the law, you are looking at discipline hearings.
And nobody wants to be in front of a discipline committee?
No. It's public, it's stressful, it's expensive. And that can lead to fines and penalties. But more significantly, license suspension or revocation.
Which means your career is effectively over. You can't work in your field anymore.
You lose the right to practice and the right to use the title. But it doesn't stop there.
There's more.
Beyond the professional regulator, you can face civil liability getting sued for damages.
By the client or victims.
And in extreme cases, criminal liability.
Which can mean jail time.
Jail time, yes.
Wow. Now, does intent matter here? Do I have to be a villain twirling a mustache to face these consequences?
Not at all. And this is crucial for the listener to understand. You don't have to be evil to face consequences. Negligence, carelessness, or just failing to understand the rules can lead to sanctions.
So, I didn't mean to, or I was just sloppy, doesn't get you off the hook.
No. The law expects you to be competent and diligent. If you are negligent, you have failed the public trust.
The outcome, public danger, is often the same.
The bridge doesn't care if you meant for it to collapse or if you just forgot to carry a one.
That's a powerful image. It really all comes back to that social contract.
That's the perfect way to summarize it. Legality isn't just a hurdle to jump over. It's a defining feature of the professional identity in Canada.
So let's wrap this up with a summary of the main takeaways. We've covered a lot of ground today.
Sure. I think there are 3 pillars here. First, legality is the minimum standard.
The floor.
Right. You must practice within your scope, your authorized jurisdiction, and, most importantly, within the spirit of the law, not just the letter. You owned your work. It doesn't matter who your boss is or who you delegated the task to. If your seal is on it, the buck stops with you.
No passing the blame. And finally,
compliance is proactive. You have to handle the boring stuff, registration, fees, CPD, and you have to stand up to pressure. You cannot be a passive participant in your own profession.
I love that. It puts the power and the responsibility squarely on the professional's shoulders.
It does. And I want to leave the listener with a provocative thought to chew on. We often talk about ethics and law as if they're separate things.
Right. Law is what you have to do. Ethics is what you should do.
Exactly. But if legality is the minimum acceptable standard, ask yourself this. Are you just trying to stay out of trouble following the letter?
Or are you actively protecting the public following the spirit?
Because one of those keeps you employed for now, but the other makes you a true professional who sleeps well at night.
That is a powerful question to reflect on. Are you playing defense or are you playing for the public good? That brings us to the end of this deep dive into professional accountability and legality. We hope this cleared up Blueprint 3.1.5 for you.
It's a dense topic, but essential.
If you found this helpful, please do us a huge favor. Hit that like and subscribe button right now.
This is the best way to support the show.
It really is. It ensures you hear more content like this and helps make sure you are successful on your NPPE exam. We want to help you pass, so stick with us.
Good luck with your studies.
Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on